It's James Matisek, public adjuster for Michelle Wise.
Yes, sir.
Hey, did you ever get a hold of her?
No, I did not.
Okay. Now, I guess we had a question. Now, what date were y'all wanting us to use for a wind claim?
I'd have to look back at what the storms were, and since the last time we were out there, which was, I think we were out there sometime in August.
Hey, can I put you on hold? She's actually calling you back. Can I put you on hold?
Sure.
Hey, Michelle.
Hello.
Hey, I've got him on the phone. You want to talk to him?
Sure.
Okay. Hey, Dale.
Yes, sir.
Hey, I've got Michelle Wise on the phone.
Hi.
Hi, Miss Wise. This is Dale at State Farm.
Mhm.
Yes, ma'am. And I think James was just talking to me about when that damage occurred. And I'll tell you, I don't have a specific date of the storm. You know, I know there's been several little storms that have come through with some pretty significant rains over the last couple of months. Do you have any idea of when a good storm came through that could have caused that damage?
Well, on the one I reported was the worst one that we had that had the hail and the super strong winds.
Okay, and as I explained to you, when we inspected the roof in May and August, we did not notice the wind damage. There was no indication of wind damage to the roof. That tells me that the damage didn't occur until more recently. And the roof leak, as we talked about when we were out there, you said it was in the last month to 6 weeks.
Well, that's when I noticed it. But that doesn't mean that that's when it happened.
Well, no, that's not what you said, Ms. Wise. When I talked to you, you had advised me that you were pretty confident it wasn't there prior to that.
Well, when you asked me that, I thought you meant like years before that. I don't know the specific date.
No, ma'am, I was pretty specific that you hadn't noticed that prior to our initial inspection.
Prior to the No, I didn't notice it prior to the initial inspection.
Okay, well, and as far as the
I
roof,
told you when I noticed it.
as we explained, we did not see any wind damage to the shingles on the roof on any of the prior inspections of the roof. The only thing we can relate that to is new damage.
Okay.
So what I can do is do some research, and when we've had some strong winds and weather in the area over the last couple of months, I'll give you a call back and talk to you about those dates to see when that damage may have occurred.
Well, how would I know that? I don't get up on my roof and inspect it.
Sure.
I wouldn't know what the damage looked like to begin with.
I understand that.
If you're seeing it, then okay, then it happened. I don't know how I would know the date that it happened if you're telling me it didn't happen on the date when I reported it.
Well, the damage wasn't there when we last inspected the roof back in August. So therefore, it had to occur sometime between that last time we inspected it to the time that we inspected it most recently.
Okay.
So, like I said, I'll have to look back and do some research as far as when, some storms that have come through for a possible date that may have occurred.
Okay.
And like I said, I'm going on that time frame of what we talked about when we saw the interior leaks.
Well, Dale, there really hasn't been a storm at all in that area. There hasn't been any windstorms since then.
Okay.
Not since June.
Yeah, again, like I said, we inspected the roof back in August, but the wind damage was not there, so I don't have that answer.
And you have complete pictures of the entire roof that you can go back and look at to see that there was no wind damage there at that time and it wasn't just overlooked?
And I don't have a picture of every shingle of the roof, no, ma'am. But we did complete the inspection. We've had 4 different adjusters up on your roof prior to that time, and we did not see that damage.
Okay. Well, I mean, that was our.
We also met with your roofer at the time, which he never pointed out that damage either.
Okay, well, I don't know what you're trying to tell me here, because I've been told numerous times by people that the roofer and by James that every time they try to point out something, it was poo-pooed and not looked at by you guys because you already had your own opinion of everything. So I don't know if what you're telling me is true or not, but if there's damage, there's damage. And so, I don't know what to tell you because I don't get up and crawl around on my roof every time it rains. So I can't tell you a date that it occurred.
That's fine. I can investigate that and try to work with you regarding the date when that may have occurred. What we're telling you is during our inspection of your home, we don't have a preconceived notion of whether there is damage or not until we actually do the inspection. And then we make a determination based on what we find during our inspection of your home. As far as the inspection of your home for hail damage, we did not find hail damage to your home, to the shingles, to warrant replacement of the entire roof. During our most recent inspection, we did notice shingles that appear to be damaged by wind. Based on those damages for wind, we would allow to replace the shingles for wind damage. That damage was not noted, and there was no indication of wind damage to your roof by any of the adjusters that have been out there on your roof to look at it, or by John Valente with Ridge Roofing.
Okay.
So the only I can say is, from the time that we looked at the roof, and I'm trying to get the exact date when we were out there, when you met with Mike Nestor, when Mike Nestor came out and looked at the roof, I think that was back on August the 21st. Mike Nestor came back out, looked at it himself. I was out there as well as John Valente. We looked at the roof. John was pointing out what he felt was hail damage. We disagree with his assessment of hail damage to the roof, as we disagree with James with his assessment of hail damage to the roof. We don't agree to see that we see hail damage to your shingles. Okay. Now, based on our most recent inspection, where some shingles do appear to have some wind damage to it, based on what we're seeing, based on that damage, we would allow to replace the roof. However, it would be a separate claim because we do not see that damage on any of the prior inspections. So the only thing I can tell, the only thing that says to State Farm is that damage, that must be new damage, and it must have occurred in a more recent storm.
Okay.
Well, okay. If you think that there was another storm, then you can document it that way. But I honestly can't tell you whether there was a storm that would have caused that damage because, like I said, I haven't been up crawling around on my roof. I wouldn't know what it looked like if I saw it. And, you know, I know that the worst storm that we had happened on May 27th, and that's what I reported.
And I understand what you're telling me. I just, like I said, we did not find that damage on any of the prior inspections that we were on your roof. So that damage has to have occurred somewhere at another time based on that. So that's where our assessment of the claim is. So you're telling me you do want to pursue a claim for the wind damage, is that correct?
Yes.
Can you just can you put it on that same date?
What's that?
I mean, can you just use the same date since she's already got a claim?
No, James, can't use the same date.
Okay.
Well, let me just say this, Dale. I feel like you all are very dishonest, and I feel like you've been being dishonest with me from the very beginning. And I feel like right now, with you telling me all this stuff about new storms and dates that I don't believe happened, you're trying to get me to commit insurance fraud. And I'm not interested in doing that because I'm in the insurance industry as well. And I don't want to have it ruin my reputation or my credentials that I have in insurance. And I honestly feel like you guys are trying to railroad me.
I can't change the facts of what we found when we did our inspection of your roof.
Well, I understand that, Dale, but there has not been a wind event in South Austin, documented wind event at all since June. So how can that be?
James, I don't have the answer. I can't tell you what gusts of wind come up and change. I don't say, like as Miss Wyatt says, she doesn't check her roof after every storm. You know, I know we've had wind gusts here at my house that come and go, you know, for the last 2 months. You know, is there a difference from one storm to the next? Sure.
Well, I
can't go back and tell you. I can just tell you that our inspections have documented no damages were found to the roof. In our most recent inspection, we are seeing some damage to the roof that does appear to be related to wind. Based on what I found. Now, because that damage was not found previously and is now being seen, that has to have occurred somewhere between the time that we last looked at the roof and we most recently looked at the roof. I'm not asking for anybody to do anything incorrect or anything wrong. I'm just telling you, based on our inspection, what we found, this is what our findings are.
Well, and again, like I said, I feel like you guys are dishonest. So I
feel sorry that we disagree with your roofer and with your public adjuster on what is hail damage. I can't I'm not asking them to. I'm not trying to force them to agree with what I'm seeing. I'm just telling them this is what we see.
Right. And I stated that I've got, dozens and dozens of claims that y'all paid for roofs based on the damage that we saw, including on the fence, including the windows.
I disagree with that, James. I'm looking at that specific roof.
Right, but yet but you've agreed to pay for the screens.
We had that discussion.
But you've agreed to pay for the screens and the vents that have damage from hail and wind. So why is that?
I'm sorry. What are you asking me?
You said that you were going to pay for the vent caps that have hail dents in them. Correct?
We completed an estimate for the damage that was found to our home related to that May 27th storm.
Right. Which included hail dents, correct?
Sure. Yes, sir.
But yet they're not significant enough to create damage to the roof.
That storm, we did not find hail damage to the shingles. No, sir.
Yet the vent has a big dent in it. Which is what?
So does my garage door, and it's just ridiculous that you're saying this. And this is why I keep telling you that I think you are dishonest. Because for whatever reason, this should have been a paid claim the first time I reported it from the May 27th storm. And so now, because you didn't document it correctly or whatever, I feel like you're making stuff up and you're trying to make me get into a bad situation.
And I can't tell you what's going to happen from one storm, from one day to the next, or a storm, or from an event. I can just tell you what our inspections found on the initial inspections. We've had 4 different adjusters out there on your roof who inspected it, did not find hail damage to warrant replacement of the shingles. We disagree with your roofer and with your public adjuster as to the extent of the damage to the shingles.
And so however, in the most recent, out there to disagree with you, because I've had not only the roofer that I have now, plus James, I've had 2 other roofers look at my roof, and they all have sent me pictures and said, yes, you have hail damage. So I don't understand why it is that all these roofers, and now James, the public adjuster, has such a different opinion than you guys have.
And I don't have that answer. The roofer's out there to put roofs on my house.
Right. And also, State Farm...
State Farm is looking for damage. There has to be damage for us to pay to replace the roof. As I mentioned, if you would like to proceed with a new claim for wind damage, we're happy to investigate that claim in regards to the shingles for wind damage.
Can we use the May 27th and report it as wind?
No, sir.
Why not?
Because we did not find wind damage to the roof. We look at the roof, when we inspect the roof for damages, we look for wind and hail damage. We did not find any wind damage to the roof, to the shingles, to warrant replacement of the roof from the May 27th storm.
And did y'all look for wind that day?
Yes, Jay.
It was called in as a hail claim.
Okay, yes, sir.
Or did y'all look for wind when y'all came out?
Yes, sir.
Are you sure? Did y'all write W = 0 on your test squares?
Wind is not the same as hail. It is looked at differently, but we still look at all the roof for wind and hail damage, James.
Right, but did y'all document W = 0 in all your test squares? I'm just saying. I'm just asking.
You're asking me for our processes, which is not relevant. We inspected it for wind damage, and we did not find wind damage to the roof.
Right, but typically we go and look at an area. You draw a test square, and you draw in there what you see in that test square. Normally, that's what happens. I wasn't there.
Normally, we look at a test squares for hail damage, but we still look at the entire roof for wind damage as well. Because you can have wind damage to one shingle on a roof and have nothing to do with any other slopes. You don't need a test square to tell you there's wind damage.
Correct, but I don't know. I wasn't there.
So why would we create a test square for wind damage?
Well, because it was called in as a hail claim originally.
But if we don't do a test square for any wind damage, what does that matter? We're not going to do a test square for wind damage on every claim. Every claim is handled on its own merits. In this specific case, we did a test square for hail damage. We also inspected it and did not find wind damage.
But you just said you can't document that. You don't know that. You weren't there. You don't know whether they did that or not. And you're sitting here saying
we documented there was no wind or hail damage to the shingles to warrant replacement of the roof.
But he just asked you 3 times if you documented that, and you're sitting here saying...
No, man, he asked me if we have a photo that says W = 0. which is he's trying to say wind equals there's no damage in a test square for wind damage.
Well, or anywhere's on the roof. I mean, normally you write something on there to document.
Again, you're trying to say normally. You're trying to say what we do normally, James. You don't do our this is not what you do. So I don't know how you can say that's normal.
Well, typically when we get up on a roof, you draw.
Typically, the same. It's a very broad word, James.
Well, I understand, but you're telling us that you didn't see the wind damage shingles until now. How do you, I know y'all looked right there by the garage where they are? Which is where the wind...
Our job in looking at a roof is to try to do an inspection of the entire property, James. That damage was not noted during any of the prior inspections. Mr. Valente with Ridge Roofing was also on the roof. He did not point that out as being damaged.
Right, but he's
There's no indication. There was no indication of wind damage prior to our most recent inspection.
right. And I mean, Mr. Valente is a roofer basically in there, and he was talking about the hail damage, I'm sure, but I pointed out the wind damage because I saw it, because I did a thorough inspection.
No, we did a thorough inspection, did not find wind damage.
Okay. So once again, what day are we supposed to use that has wind on it that doesn't have hail?
As I mentioned, I can look back to see what storms we've had in the area to give you some dates as far as when that damage may have occurred.
Okay, then you need
you have
because I don't know. I said then you need to document the date because I don't know the date.
And I can look and see what dates we've had storms come through the area. James, as your public adjuster, can also look at that and look at that for you as well.
I did, and I don't find one. That's the problem. I don't find anything about a wind event in South Austin after this storm date. There wasn't. The only other date was on June 13th.
There has been wind events, James. We've had wind events just this past weekend.
Right, but I'm talking about in South Austin that were anywhere related on the National Weather Service. I haven't seen a single event.
Right, but you can have higher winds from one place to the other. I can't tell you did we have a wind gust come through that on a specific day that got up to over 30 or 40 or 50 miles per hour that could have caused that damage.
Right, I understand what you're saying. It's just that I know that the only other wind event we had was in October in Waco and Temple, but it did not hit Central Texas. And
when you say wind event, you're talking about an extreme, significant wind event where you have catastrophe type damages with multiple homes and houses, but you can't have wind events that cause damage that are small and relatively minor only to a small area.
Correct. I just haven't seen one or heard of any claims. I mean, y'all may have in your claims office, but I haven't heard of one.
Okay. So that's what I'd have to... What's that, ma'am?
You are going to give us dates?
I can look and see if I can find out. I can look and see what days we've had some storms come through the area. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So basically, you have an active claim that we have, and you're wanting her to create a different claim now for whatever reason, which is
not whatever reason, for the fact that we did not find any damage, and now we are finding damage. That's a very specific reason. It's not whatever reason. That's a very specific reason.
Well, you did find damage the first time to the caps and to the vents and the dents in the garage door, and you did find damage the first time.
We found some hail damage the first time, yes, ma'am.
Right, but then all those items now get subtracted off of her claim on this count, so you're not going to pay for those pipe jacks and things that are part of the roof because you're doing it on a separate claim also. So that's also discounting the value of her claim dollars for the repair of her roof.
The policy pays for accident by direct physical loss related to the specific date of the storm that caused the damages to the home. So we would have to, once we get a claim turned in for, if you're willing to pursue a claim for wind damage to the roof, we'll have to turn in a claim and handle that claim for the marriage for the damages it has from the wind claim, which is the shingles to the roof and the interior water damage.
Okay, and that created a storm-created opening is what you're saying?
No, sir, that's not what I'm saying.
I mean, we're trying to attribute how the water damage occurred, so I mean, that's what...
Well, we talked about how the water damage occurred. I believe the water came in through a vent stack, through a rubber boot jack, and possibly through some staples that were exposed on the right slope of the house.
Okay. But you're going to include that in part of this claim, correct?
The interior water damage will be part of the wind damage claim, if that's what if Ms. Wise is wanting to pursue that claim.
Okay. So I guess we want y'all to provide that date. I mean, I'm not going to provide a date. She's not going to provide a date. Otherwise, it's an unknown. Discovered as of the day we called the claim in for reinspect. I mean, there is no, as far as I know, there is no date. So y'all have to provide a date for us.
Again, like I said, I like to provide a date. I can give you some dates we can talk about and discuss the date that damage may have occurred on. I mean, there's definitely some unknowns there, but we can look at it and try to agree upon a date that damage may have occurred. Again, my discussions with Ms. Wise with you during our inspection was when that water damage was noticed. It was about 4 to 6 weeks prior. So that gives me a window of when that wind damage may have occurred or when a storm may have come through that could have caused that damage.
Okay.
So I'll look into that. I know we've had several storms come through over the last couple of months. I will review it and give you a call back as far as some dates that damage could have occurred on.
Okay. Well, we'll be waiting that call.
All right. Ms. Wise, is it better I contact you directly or you want me to contact James and try to do a conference call? How would you like to do that?
You can contact James. That's fine.
All right. I will get back in touch with you all as quickly as I can.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Today is November 24th, 2:48 p.m. I've been on the phone with Del Marek and Michelle Wise with State Farm Insurance in regard to Michelle Wise's property claim. And this concludes the call.